Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday, January 7th, 2021, and you have tuned in to the Rebel News live stream. I'm David Menzies, and as always, every Tuesday and Thursday, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Sheila the She-Devil Gunn-Reid, broadcasting from somewhere in the hinterland of northern Alberta. How you doing there, Sheila?
I'm great. And before we start the show, I just want to say how great our viewers are. In particular, Lisa Proust. I hope she's tuned in already because I'm just going to reach off camera here, Justin. She sent me this big bouquet of flowers. I don't know if I can get it all in frame. I'm trying to do it backwards. But she reached out to one of our I Will Open cases, a florist in northern Alberta here, sort of north central Alberta. Lisa Proust, regular viewer, regular super chatter, and David and Sheila super fan. She not only sent me flowers as a gesture of condolences on the passing of my mom, but she did it by utilizing one of our I Will Open people. And I thought, what a wonderful gesture. First of all, to do that to me, but to also help out one of our I Will Open people. So Lisa Proust, thank you very much. And now approximately 600 people who are currently watching right now know exactly how great you are. So thanks, Lisa.
And you know, Sheila, you sent me a screen capture of the card that Lisa wrote to you. And I have to say, it must be the most beautiful calligraphy I have ever seen. I think there's a career for people that can write so beautifully like that. And I mean, if you could see my penmanship, I am so ashamed of myself that I grew up being learned in the English language, because my chicken scratch compared to those gorgeous, symmetrically perfect letters that Lisa put on that card. It is a lost art, Sheila, especially in our digital age where everyone's just typing. For anyone in 2021 to write that beautifully, it just blew me away. So Lisa, thank you so much. That was so heartfelt what you sent to Sheila. And you have a gift, and you should hire out your penmanship to people. I mean, I think, give me your rate card, because next time I send a letter to the boss or what have you, I want you to write it so he thinks I have that kind of talent.
Now, the more I think about it, it probably wasn't Lisa whose penmanship you and I were both admiring.
Oh.
It's probably the florist, which is Lisa from Dozy Dotes and Greens from west of Edmonton. It's probably the florist who wrote that, but she's got gorgeous penmanship. So friends at home, if you're ordering flowers from Dozy Dotes and Greens, you can find all of her information on our I Will Open page. If you watch the video that I did with her, guaranteed you're going to see some fantastic penmanship in the little notes that she writes on your behalf. It's incredible.
Now you tell me. I take it all back what I said about Lisa Proust's penmanship.
No, stop.
And I transfer it to whoever this incredible florist is.
Lisa, another Lisa from Dozy Dotes and Greens, west of Edmonton. Yeah. They don't. Did you know that they don't even teach like cursive anymore?
Oh, I didn't know
in
that.
School? Yeah. My daughter had to sign her passport. And I'm like, oh, well, just sign your name. And she's like, they don't teach us that.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't teach you that. So I don't know how people are supposed to have a signature and sign documents or whatever anymore, but they don't teach kids cursive anymore.
Why are we dumbing down society? I heard someone told me they were going for a driving test and they no longer test you on parallel parking. I guess in the future there'll be some app in all the smart cars, Sheila, that come out where it'll park it for you. But I thought, That's, why would you take that away from the test? And now no cursive. And, this year is really getting off on the wrong foot, wouldn't you say? I mean, the only positive thing I've seen in 24 hours, Sheila, is the cancellation of Caillou, which Mr. Producer won't let me play that 30-second clip in terms of why and I assume millions of other parents hate Caillou, because we have all this important, dire stuff to get to, which is very important. But I'm just trying to search for a silver lining out there, Sheila, in a sky full of clouds that'll be there for at least the next 4 years, as far as I'm concerned. So, but anyhow, you at this point normally tell the folks who aren't familiar with the show what it is that we're probably trying to do here.
Yeah, we actually do other things than complain about the fact that kids aren't learning the stuff that we used to. And David's got bad penmanship, and mine isn't that great either. Mine looks like a note from the Zodiac Killer. Like, it's not good.
They just cracked the code a couple of weeks ago. Do you know that?
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. Of course I know that.
It only took a half century, but they cracked it.
And it wasn't law enforcement. It was internet nerds. It was internet nerds who put it together. It was not law enforcement. It was one of those like internet sleuths, that whole like internet sleuth community that get together and try to solve crimes and find clues. It was them. It wasn't law enforcement, which I thought was kind of interesting. Anyways, we should tell people exactly what we're doing here. This is the daily live stream. It used to just be Fridays. It used to just be hosted by Ezra, unless he was traveling on Fridays. And then it was David and I, because, of course, it takes David and Sheila to make up one Ezra Levant. But during the pandemic, there's really more news than ever, even though it's harder to get out there and get to the news. News is breaking constantly. All news is local. Things are changing every single day. And so while the mainstream media thought, okay, well, let's, like, especially CBC, let's cancel our local news coverage, but we'll still take the money for local news coverage, we decided let's expand our news coverage 5 weekdays at noon Eastern or 10 a.m. out here in God's country in Alberta. And it gives David and I a chance to interact with each other, talk about the news of the day and get a little off track. It gives our viewers a chance to interact with each other in the live chat. It gives you at home also a chance to do something else, and that's leave a comment. Give us your opinion, which is something that they don't allow you to do in the mainstream media. They want your bailout bucks, but they sure as heck don't want to hear from you. They just want your money and they want you to shut up. But it also gives you at home a chance to do something else, and that's support the work that we do completely willingly, because we will never ask Justin Trudeau to reach into your pocket to give us your money. If you want to support us, we want you to do it of your own free will by doing something called a super chat. If you go to the bottom of the live chat, there's a little $sign. Click on it. You can throw some money in the pot there. YouTube takes some. It's their platform, whatever. But we get the majority of it. The more money you give, the more characters you get. And it gives you a chance to leave us a comment, ask a question, put a topic on our radar, or get the show completely off track. Put it in a super chat. Mr. Producer will send it to us in case I miss it, which I do. Every single one, I miss them. So he sends them to me in a chat, and I'll read it aloud, and David and I will do our best to address it.
100%. And I guess, Sheila, we should get to the top story of the hour, and that is the disgrace that happened yesterday in Washington. I normally don't use ad hominem attacks to describe people, but I will call those people that stormed the Capitol building a bunch of morons, simply because what was the end game? What did they hope to accomplish? They get into the building, they sit in, Pelosi's chair or some, other person's chair. They take, I guess, a selfie of them there. And then where does the so-called revolution go from there, Sheila? We need to know who these people are, and they have to be charged to the most severe penalty that you can do for this kind of action. This is not us, Sheila. This is not conservatives. I mean, in the meeting last night, Ezra, our boss, he said, I've never seen a conservative smash a window. I've never seen a conservative take out a can of spray paint and put profanity on a wall. And he's right. I haven't seen it either. The vast majority of these people there yesterday were not part of this. And I just think it's grotesque that this happened. You either believe, folks, in law and order, as we do, or you believe in violence and anarchy, which gets you nowhere. That is Bush League Banana Republic kind of crap. And, you know, Sheila, it was a gift, a Christmas gift of the ages to the left. You're going to see that footage, folks, not for days, not for weeks. It's going to be played for years, okay, on the mainstream media. And it's going to be used as an excuse to further clamp down on constitutional freedoms. In fact, you know, Mr. Producer was showing me some new guidelines YouTube has issued as of today, things on their censorship bracket, things that you can't say anymore. And of course, they're basing it on the incident of yesterday. It's so appalling. And I got to tell you too, Sheila, you know, the hypocrisy of the left and the Democrats and the mainstream media. All summer long, we saw cities, Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, burning because the Antifa and Black Lives Matter mobs were setting neighborhoods on fire. And we were told, oh, no. Mostly peaceful protest. And let's defund the police. And what do we see from the Democrats and the mainstream media yesterday? Look at this pro-Trump mob. Everybody. It's not a faction of morons and idiots, but everybody that's associated with Trump, everybody wearing a MAGA hat is that. So this mostly peaceful, that goes out the window. And, oh, so much for defunding the police, eh, Sheila? It's like, you know, did you see the look on Biden's face? Like, where's the National Guard? You know, the double standard and the hypocrisy is brutal. And, you know, like I said, we are in for at least 4 years of darkness. And when I say we, I mean the United States, Canada by extension, the world by extension. And when a bunch of idiots and morons give the left that kind of ammunition, shame on them. If you're a reasonable person that believes in law and order, folks, you should be condemning that. That was a disgrace. That was a disaster, what happened in Washington yesterday, Sheila.
You know, it came into my email inbox this morning from the Daily Caller. So let's not accuse the Daily Caller of ever being never Trumpers. They're pro-Trump. I mean, they're founded by Tucker Carlson. But their editorial board, their top trending article today at the Daily Caller is an editorial board op-ed that says, Patriots do not storm their nation's capital. And it summed up exactly what I was feeling. And maybe as Justin digs that up, it's on the Daily Caller homepage. But I'll explain to you why, even though if there are Antifa interlopers in there that are causing destruction and inciting everybody else to do bad things, the fact that so many other people allowed themselves to be swept up in the mob and storm the Capitol, that's a real problem. You know, I would like to see the charging sheets of these people. I want to see the names. I want to match those names up with the Antifa people we know were charged over the summer to see if there's some of the same people. And I think there will be some of that in there. A lot of interlopers doing a lot of like, hey, let's storm the Capitol, and people getting caught up in the moment and doing it. But the fact that so many people on the right side got caught up in that and did it, that's problematic, to use the language of the left. And the ease with which it will be used to taint the whole should surprise no one. And that's why, as conservatives, we always have to be on our best behavior. This undoes all the work that everybody has done over the past 4 years of cleaning up after themselves after protests, of remaining peaceful, thanking the cops. Every time the conservatives look down their noses at people who stormed the Kavanaugh hearings, that's all undone. That's all undone by the actions of these people.
Yeah, you can't condemn BLM and Antifa for what we saw all summer long, and then give this a passing grade based on anything. You just can't. And Sheila, I'm open to the theory that some of these people could have been false flag Antifa members. I'm not saying that is.
We know they do that, but it doesn't matter. There's not enough of them to explain the images we're seeing.
Exactly. And that is why I go back to the very first thing I said about this issue. I want to know who these people are. And we'll get that information. Unfortunately, it'll be days and weeks before that all becomes public, I would assume. But the damage that's being done in the here and now is atrocious. It is so sad. I had trouble sleeping last night. I was heartbroken that this was done. And if these guys aren't false flag Antifa BLM people, then they should just look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves just what the hell they were hoping to accomplish. If you hate the left so much, why would you give the left such a gift as you gave them yesterday? Like I said, morons. And what were they thinking? Even if they get into the Capitol building, Sheila, they're there for a few minutes, maybe a few hours. You don't think a show of force by law enforcement is eventually going to come and clear it out? I'm beside myself with how stupid this plan was. I mean, if you're ever going to do something like that, folks, think of the end game, right? Because there was no end game here. This was like playing chess with a blindfold on. Just absolutely astonishing to me, Sheila.
Well, we know that we're not on a level playing field. We know that. We know we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We know that. That's why when I'm out in public and people are calling me names, I kill them with kindness. I don't retaliate because that's what's going to end up on the news.
That's right.
These people just gave the new president and the new administration and Twitter and Facebook everything they needed, every little bit of justification to crack down and censor us and kick us all off. That's what's going to happen now. They're going to say that mob was organized on Twitter and it was organized on Facebook. And so we need to shut down those people. That's what's coming.
Oh, it's already happened. I mean, with
For sure
Facebook,
it is.
Zuckerberg put out that statement of why Donald Trump has been deplatformed until there's a transition of power. It's obviously too dangerous given the events. By the way, speaking of Caillou, isn't there a resemblance between Caillou and Zuckerberg now that you think of it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Mr. Producer can put up a split screen image later on. But yeah, so it's already happening right now, Sheila. And
Twitter censored a video of Donald Trump calling for peace. They pulled that down.
Yep.
And so then the narrative out there is Donald Trump didn't say anything while this was going on. When he was saying that these people need to stop. They're not doing it in his name. And Twitter pulled that down so that the narrative remains out there for anybody who's looking that Trump had nothing to say about it. They're changing reality in real time. That's what social media companies are doing. Now, maybe, I don't know if Justin, if you found that Daily Caller op-ed, but if people would humor me, I'll read from this because I think it did summarize exactly what I feel. As someone who came around to President Trump, I wasn't initially sold on the idea of Trump, but I think he governed as the most conservative president, I think, in our lifetime, maybe even more so than Ronald Reagan. I truly believe that. And he defended religious liberty and freedom of speech. However, he did not crack down on the social media companies when he had the chance, and that's a great failing. But this summarized how I felt watching that, I guess, mob violence happen on the Capitol. It reads, Patriots enlist and defend their country. They work hard, do their best, raise good families. They help their neighbors. They perform civic duties. They grit their teeth and pay their taxes. Then they show up and vote. They compete. They win or lose. They do both with grace. These are some of the things patriots do. Patriots do not storm their own capital over a lost election. They do not bum rush members of Congress. They do not assault strangers. They do not push and shove police officers and trash federal buildings. These are things criminals do, and criminals of any political stripe deserve one thing: the rule of law. While Congress convened January 6, 2020 to certify the electoral votes for President-elect Joe Biden, an act that has been performed for the most part throughout history peacefully and without incident, the city outside swelled as tens of thousands of protesters whipped themselves into a stop the steal frenzy. Eventually, many of them descended on the Capitol building, hell-bent on disrupting the American constitutional process. As this summer's political protests escalated into rioting and lawlessness, many of us pointed out how unacceptable that was for any reason. This situation is no different. Every single one of the people who stormed that building and participated in that rank un-American lawlessness should be in jail. There are prodigious photos and video evidence. Law enforcement officials should find them and prosecute them, all of them, no exceptions. The reason why is simple. The peaceful transfer of power is a hallmark of Western democracy. It's the cornerstone of everything we love. It is apple pie. It's lining up and shaking hands when the clock hits zero. We have ways to resolve political disputes, including election disputes. What happened in Washington is not on the list. If we want to end the cycle of political violence, and it has become a cycle, now is the time to set the precedent. The left excused this summer's rioting as mostly peaceful. The same could be said of the events in Washington. It's irrelevant. Mostly is not the standard to which we should aspire. Political violence is wrong, period. That was true in 2016 when the Not My President rioters disrupted the Trump inaugural, and it's true today. The rule of law is an essential element of our peaceful transition of power. The people who stormed that building do not represent the vast majority of America.
Well said. And that is the key, Sheila. I mean, when you look back at what happened at this election, and I'm not even going to go into the issue of voter fraud, but what we can say is the unconstitutional manner in which the rules were changed in key swing states. I'm talking Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan. That is a fact, and that has to be reversed or remedied. However, I don't have much optimism, Sheila, given that, well, we have a Democratic president in the White House. The Democrats control the Congress, and the Democrats control the Senate, too. Like I said, I think it's going to be 4 dark years ahead of us. But the way you go about having a remedy to what we have now in the United States of America, it isn't by embracing violence and terrorist acts, because that's what that was yesterday, Sheila. Make no mistake about it. And to your other point, you were not immediately on the Trump bandwagon. That's where you and I are different. I just loved his straight talking because, we all cover politicians and the weasel words they use, and they say things they don't mean, and they mean things they don't say. And here was a guy calling it like it is. So he converted me right off the bat, and he was the darkest of the dark horses, wasn't he? This was supposed to be Jeb Bush or Ted Cruz, and he proved the pundits wrong. And I will say, in the last 4 years, this was not a good president. This was a great president, Sheila. Before the Wuhan virus, what did we have? We had a roaring economy in the United States. We had record low unemployment levels for blacks, Latinos, Asians, women. We had in foreign policy those incredible Mideast peace accords that will probably be unraveled as the Biden administration reaches out to undo the undoing of the Obama Iran deal. You just watch. That's going to happen. We had a president who surprisingly kept America out of war. He was not hawkish as he was being painted by his critics before becoming president. I think on any basis, this was a fantastic president that brought prosperity to the United States of America. And when you look at what I call the Biden manifesto, I think we can expect to see some of that prosperity go by the wayside. Remember, Sheila, how Obama said in the Steel Belt, aka the Rust Belt, those jobs are gone and they're not coming back. And we had a president who brought those jobs back. I shouldn't say the pronoun we, but Americans had a president that did that. Let's see what happens in the days ahead. I am not optimistic in the slightest, Sheila. And in fact, I worry that the rules will be changed nationally, much like what the Democrats did in California, where it's almost impossible for a Republican regime to be elected there. I'm worried about the Californianization of Washington. And by that, I mean getting rid of the filibuster rule, stacking the Supreme Court, perhaps making states out of Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. So a couple more Senate seats that will go Democrat, forever eliminating the chance of that House going Republican. This is what I fear the years ahead are going to bring. These Democrats are emboldened. And when that incident happened yesterday, that only further emboldened them and gave them more entitlement to carry out their dangerous agenda. And that's right, that's what I call it, Sheila, a dangerous agenda, undoing all the good that Trump did the last 4 years.
Yeah, I agree. And I see that some people in the comments are upset with me because I'm not making excuses for people who engage in a mob. And I am not a tribalist. I'm not. I don't have a problem calling out the bad guys who are on the right side of the aisle. I definitely don't. That's why I wanted Tracy Allard fired, is because when our side of the aisle engages in bad behavior, we need to engage in political hygiene. We need to scrub those people from the movement and move on. We need to denounce them. David, you and I have been both on the receiving end of political violence.
Yep.
And so I'm obviously against it. I am for the rule of law. The same reasons I was critical of BLM burning police stations is the same reason why I'm critical of people storming the Capitol building. I have to be intellectually honest. And if people don't like it, sorry, but at least I'm consistent. And if you wanted a tribalist, then I would be a liberal. And I would be making excuses for Justin Trudeau because he's the leader of the party. I'm not making excuses for bad behavior. I refuse to do it. And if you don't like it, sorry, I am what I am, and that's what you get.
100%. I know you and Ezra and Kian, perhaps our whole team, are of the same mindset. When we had that video published of Rod Phillips, where I went to the airport and I interviewed demonstrators who were demanding that he be fired justifiably. I remember one of the comments I read, and it was, oh, come on, Menzies, give your head a shake. Phillips is a conservative. You think it'd be better with the Liberals or the NDP? No, that's not the point. I think, folks, Sheila and I and the rest of us here, we're like the umpires behind home plate. We call balls and strikes. And if it's a conservative pitching and it's 3 feet out the strike zone, it's a ball. It's not a strike because it's a conservative. So don't give me this baloney of take one for the team, because in that case, we're not journalists anymore. We're public relations professionals. We're lobbyists. And that's not what we do here. If you're a conservative breaking the rules and lying and getting involved in scandal, you're not a conservative to me, at least not a conservative I'm going to bat for, and we're going to call you out. It's that simple.
Well, and on that point, if you're a conservative breaking the rules, those rules that which you want applied to the left, you know what happens? You embolden the left to crack down on all conservatives, because the left definitely believes in collective guilt. And that's what we're going to have happen here. So when the increased social media censorship comes, we just got an email from YouTube this morning saying that there are other things that they're going to be censoring, the things that people can't talk about. That's already happened this morning.
Already.
Why do you think that's happening? It's happening today because of rule breakers from yesterday. And we know the left controls the mechanisms of media. We know that. That's why we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I'm sorry, the playing field isn't level, but that's the playing field that we're on. Now, I'm not saying walk off the playing field and throw down your weapons. I'm saying you need to be smart. And what happened yesterday was not smart. And now the entire conservative movement is tainted by the actions of a few, and the entire conservative movement is going to pay for it.
100%, Sheila. I think we have some super chats.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be some angry ones in there, but that's okay. I'm
We can take
I'm
it.
fine. Do you know what? Bring it on. Jeffrey Cap, $20. Did leftists infiltrate to give Capitol protests a bad name? There's probably some of that. I won't deny that. Yeah. If those were real right wingers, not the kind I would sanction, you should know. You should show you're worthy by being respectful. Occupy without damage, or don't even occupy. I think your voices were being heard by being outside following the rules. I mean, Kian said the crowds were just absolutely enormous.
Yep.
That's impactful. But no one sees the crowd of enormous peaceful people now. They see the people running amok inside the Capitol building.
Yep.
That's what they see. And I do agree with you, Jeffrey. If those were people on the right, I don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah.
Alec, $5. Weird migration, plague, tyranny, inflation. Are we in the dark ages 2.0? I think 2021, a lot of things are going to shake out of the tree, I think. Susan Dahmer, $5. Ford may consider stricter lockdown rules plus a curfew. I saw that. Isn't this virus amazing that it knows to go home and go to bed at 8 p.m.? Isn't that strange? It's weird.
It's amazing, Sheila, and it can also determine whether you're standing or sitting in an aircraft. It can tell if you're drinking liquor after a certain hour. This is, again, I go back to what our great pundit boss said, Ezra Levant, many moons ago, and that is this Wuhan virus, it has emboldened politicians of every level, municipal, federal, provincial, of every political stripe. It has given them a taste of totalitarian power, and they really dig that taste. And this is yet another example. Now we're going to curfew, potentially. Well, you know what? I don't know about you, Sheila. By the way, is there a media exemption for the curfew? Because if something really newsworthy happens after 8 p.m., say a terrorist attack in downtown Toronto, am I supposed to go, shoot, it's 8:30, can't cover it? I really want to see the
No, you don't work
nitty-gritty.
for the CBC. You don't work for the CBC. But, moreover to your point, we should have realized, and I think we did, but some people hadn't, obviously, that when you give the government a crisis, what do they do in times of crisis? They take away your civil liberties and use the crisis as an excuse to do it. We saw them do it with the Wuhan virus. Now they're going to do it with what happened at the Capitol.
Yep.
That's what they do. That's their response. It's predictable. It's like instinct with an animal. You input the stimulus and out comes the reflex. And that's the same thing that happens with government. You stimulate government with a crisis and their reflex is to take away your civil liberties every time.
And those idiots that stormed the Capitol yesterday, Sheila, they, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. It was a gift. What you did is you allowed the Biden administration off the hook to manufacture a crisis. You manufactured it for them.
Yeah, thank you. Let's keep going. Pink Phoenix Nails, that's Catherine. She's an I Will Open story of ours. Gives us $2. She says, somebody ratted out Tracy's place. So that's Tracy, the hairdresser, who is losing her home, who decided she's going to open anyway. Good for Tracy. She says that somebody ratted out Tracy's place and her. We knew that would happen, I guess, when you guys came forward, but hopefully taking a stand for freedom and for your business and for other entrepreneurs around you was worth it. And if I extended this offer to you, Catherine, and I touched base with Tracy last night. If you guys do get a ticket, please come right back to me. Don't pay it. Plead not guilty. We'll fight it as hard as we can because I think you have a right to do business and do business safely.
And Sheila, if I may interject here, because when it comes to the Rat of the Year award, the COVID Karen of the Year award, I think I have the ultimate one. I have a video coming up probably tomorrow, folks. It's an update on a shop in Newmarket called The Point of Light. It's operated by a couple, Karthik and Barbara. They are just an absolutely wonderful, sweet couple. It's a new age store. They've opened it up. It's basically on the auspices of some of the stuff they sell you can buy at a Walmart or a Costco. So why do they get to sell it and this little Newmarket shop doesn't? And things were going along well, no presence of bylaw. And bylaw typically acts on a complaint. And yeah, they were ratted out. But here's the twist, Sheila, a twist for the ages. The person that ratted this store out was a customer. This woman came in, got all her Christmas shopping done, and then as she's leaving going, I don't think what you're doing here is right. I'm going to be contacting the authorities. And she made good on that threat. And the next thing you know, several $100s in fines and more to come in the days ahead as they defy the lockdown order. Can you believe this kind of hypocrisy and double standard? Whoever this woman is, and this couple is so good that they won't name and shame her. Oh man, if I ran a store, that wouldn't be my bag, man. I'll tell you that much. You are the biggest rat of all rodents that have existed on this planet. To get your Christmas shopping all done, and then as you leave, go, now I'm going to ruin it for everyone else and get you on the hook for hundreds of dollars of fines. Sheila, I'm without words.
I would have her photo at the till.
Me too.
Like a shoplifter.
Yep.
She would be banned from the store, and I would have her face up there like someone who wrote a bad check. Because that's what she deserves.
Horrible.
Mr. Hammerdance. Oh, sorry, I've got two mice on the desk, and I don't know which one to use. Mr. Hammerdance gives us $2.23. Menzoid, you need that shirt that Sheila has. I do have the shirt. I do have the hoodie. It says firearms rights are human rights, and it is a shirt in support of the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights. So if you go to firearmsrights.ca, so that's the CCFR website. They have a store there, and they have some pretty cool stuff.
What a beautiful shirt it is.
It's great.
And
I love it. I get
well, Sheila.
I always get a lot of compliments when I wear it. Aura Wright gives us $10. Thank you, Rebel News, for all your hard work. Thank you so much. And Crazy gives us $5. Thank you, Sheila, for passing along the email for my Rebel store purchase. Yeah, I guess part of what I do is customer service outreach. So I just pass that along up the supply chain, and hopefully someone can fix that problem for you. Annalisa S, $6.99. I missed both of you. Looking pretty fine today, Menzoid.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The hair's kind of getting out of control because, of course, we can't go to barbershops. How long is this going to last for, by the way, Sheila?
Well, I don't know. We're supposed to find out on Friday if we can come out of lockdown, I think it's on the 13th or something. But I'm not optimistic. I bet Alberta stays in hard lockdown until the end of January. That's what I think.
What happened to Premier Kenny?
My kids are doing online learning, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're sitting on our little Chromebooks working hard. And my little one, I have her YouTube history linked to mine. I can see she's not doing anything. I could check right now, and I'm sure she's Googling Disney princesses or something.
Wow.
I know she's not up there working, but I can't be beside her the whole time. I have a full-time job too. It's terrible. And I think it's hardest on the kids. They're losing so much time in school right now.
So Big Mama is watching you at the Gun Read household.
You have no idea. I'm on some of the kids' online gaming. They play games online or whatever. And I lurk there. I have an online gaming account, so I can just pop in and spy on them just to see what they're doing. I'm like, you don't swear on there because I'm on there and you don't know who I am. So just don't. Let's keep going. Look, I know the internet's a bad place, so I have to be there to watch the kid. Canadian Girl, $2. Antifa dressed up as Trump supporters. I think there's some of that. I think that there's some of that, but that does not explain everything. That doesn't explain everything.
It doesn't. And Sheila, like I said, I'm open to the idea, but I'm not going to say that as a statement of fact until it's proven. And again, I go back to statement number one off the top. I want to know who these people are. And maybe there is an element of that, but show me, prove it to me first before we broadcast that as an actual fact.
Right. Viking and Sangas says $10 says you call for charges. Portland courthouse was occupied for 100 days, no charges there. That's the problem.
Yes.
I want those people charged too. I wanted Chaz broken up. I wanted Occupy Edmonton broken up in 2012. I don't want any of these people breaking the law on that side or this side. The point of the law is that justice is supposed to be blind and there's supposed to be an even application of it. And so we were outraged when we didn't see charges then. We should be hoping for charges now, and we should be pressing for charges back then for similar crimes. I want everybody charged who broke the law.
And, on that point, Sheila, again, in terms of being consistent, remember a year ago at this time, we had that woman, Anne Cognito, not her real name, who allegedly walked or rode her bicycle from Calgary to Ottawa. And she set up, in the name of climate justice, a filthy tent city right beside the glorious war memorial in Ottawa. It was disgusting. And it was also false, as we proved on a visit last February at nighttime. We looked in the tents, and every single tent except Anne's was empty. But finally, that eyesore, that illegal occupation was cleaned up. And then this summer, there were some anti-Trudeau people. I was given a phone call about this. And this gentleman, I'm not going to name him, but he was saying, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you go to Ottawa and give them a platform?" And I said, "Why would I? Why would I glorify a tent city in the name of patriots against Justin Trudeau, who are doing the same thing as Anne Cognito and her eco-nuts were doing, which was defacing the war memorial grounds?" No, I'm not doing that. We have to be consistent. Otherwise we don't have credibility.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry, I lost my place. Viking and saying the rest of his super chat goes on. The presidential election was stolen from the people. Washington, D.C. was named after a violent revolutionary. That all very well may be true. But what was accomplished yesterday? Do you know what's going to happen now? Civil liberties are going to be stolen from the people. So even if the contention is that the election were stolen, nothing that happened yesterday does anything to address that. All it does is give the government, the new administration, the power to continue to steal from the people. That's the problem.
100%, Sheila. And thank God more than 200 years ago, George Washington actually had a plan to defeat the British, as opposed to these nitwits that break into a building, sit in a chair, do a selfie, and then what? Again, no end game thought out. This was just anarchy and lawlessness, and it has to be condemned.
$5. Jay gives us $5. Says the U.S. military was hacked into Dominion voting machines for the Georgia runoffs, with Purdue and Lefla caught them cheating. It's all documented. Well, again, if it's all documented, great. I await the documentation. I want to see it. But whatever happened yesterday doesn't do anything to help any allegations of election tinkering, gerrymandering, fraud. None of it. And crazy $5. Images on mainstream media were different to those of private videos. Megan Bennett, $4. This is conservative. We are, I guess that should say, tired of being devalued. Viking Insane, $5. No recourse for a stolen election, but the next election will be fair, right? Keep it up, Rebel News. Trudeau will shut you down soon. Look, you want me to agree with lawlessness? I'm not gonna. I'm just not gonna. And the more, like I just said, if you give the government a crisis, or if they find a crisis, then they'll use that to crack down on civil liberties. That's just how it works. We already told you, YouTube is already changing things to address what happened yesterday. They're already, so the entire conservative sphere on YouTube, even us who are against political violence and pro law and order, we are going to fall under that same wet blanket of censorship because of what happened yesterday. That's how it is. We're all going to be collectively guilty. Viking Insane, $5. I have, I guess it should say, I'm disgusted by what David Menzies has just said. Go ahead and bend the knee to the left. We're not bending the knee. No one is fighting the left harder than us. My boss wrote a book called Trumping Trudeau. This is like when people accused me last week of working for the NDP because I wanted a UCP MLA who vacationed in Hawaii fired. They said, Sheila, you're working for the NDP. Really? How much money did we spend on billboards on the side of Highway 2 to fight the NDP? I wrote a book. I traveled the province promoting the book. I handed out lawn signs. I actually wrote 2 books. So yeah, I'm not, just because you're critical of people on the right does not mean that you are all of a sudden working for the other side. You got to be able to call out your own if you want to be able to sleep at night.
No, and Viking, right off the bat, I said in the beginning, I don't know if you tuned in late, that I decried the double standard that all summer long, Antifa and Black Lives Matter in cities such as Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, they were burning down neighborhoods. Sometimes neighborhoods black neighborhoods that will never come back. You know, black businesses being destroyed in the name of social and racial justice. And I decried that. And I decried the false narrative that these were mostly peaceful protests when you see bonfires everywhere. And I decried the fact that the Democrats, Biden, Harris, they were nowhere in front of a microphone condemning this.
Yeah,
They were, so
good point.
How I'm being consistent. As I said, you either believe in law and order or you believe in violence and anarchy. Put me on the side of law and order, and I don't care who's doing the violence and anarchy. If you're left or right of center, I don't see how that is me bending the knee to the left. If you can explain in another super chat, I'm all ears.
Kian confronted AOC when she failed to denounce, I think it was an ICE facility that was stormed by the left, whipped up by mainstream media coverage. The left storms an ICE facility, and we took it to AOC and said, why aren't you renouncing them? Why aren't you renouncing this violence, this lawlessness? So how can we sit in these chairs and not do the same when it's our side doing it?
Because with AOC and the rest, Sheila, lawlessness and violence is okay if a certain group of people is doing it, but not okay if another group is doing it. That's called hypocrisy, folks. And Sheila and I and everybody else here at the Rebel Team, we're all about law and order. We don't endorse violence and anarchy of any political stripe, period.
Okay, let's keep going. Michigan 12. I was there. Antifa organized the riot. Only they have riot expertise. Foolish, cheated voters had nothing else to lose. We had Kian Bexte on the ground there. And like I said, I'd love to see the charging papers for these people, and that'll become in the public domain soon enough. Yep. I want to see their names. Once we know their names, it's easy to find out who they are and what they've been up to. And I suspect we probably will see some Antifa people in there, but not enough to explain everything else. Lisa Proust gives us $5. She says, I got goosebumps. Sheila, I love you so much. Please. I love David so much as well. Deep admiration for you both. Lisa, thank you so much for your kindness. That was such a kind gesture and such a wonderful surprise.
Hey, Lisa, right back. What gave you the goosebumps?
The flowers. Me thanking her for the flowers, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Georgie gives us $5 yesterday. Thank you, Georgie. I think you got this. Yesterday in Washington was so wrong. What is also upsetting is Canadian politicians were also sharing concerns, but we are losing democracy in Canada. You know, I see statements from Jason Kenney denouncing what happened and said, you know, Joe Biden is duly elected. I suppose that's what the courts might say, and people might have other opinions about that. But I don't know. I just keep your nose out of it. Maybe. That's probably best. Lewis Talbot gives us £10. I mentioned this yesterday. People are saying Pence has betrayed Trump. This is ridiculous. Trump was asking him to unilaterally and illegally veto the Electoral College process. Trump betrayed Pence. I don't know. I don't know. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors there. Jim Rat, $2. Meanwhile, Trudeau says jail for Canucks for COVID. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. We just talked about that. Justin Trudeau is suggesting jail time for people who break COVID violations because you give the government a crisis, they take away your civil liberties. So we have to stop giving them a crisis.
And for the most minor of violations, I'm just going to plug a video going up later today, Sheila. The Toronto Toboggan Police. Think of anything more Canadian than tobogganing, but sometimes there's cops waiting for you at the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill here in Hogtown. Welcome to John Tory's Toronto, where no tobogganist will go unpunished. Just will you see this video, folks?
These municipalities are off the rev limiter. I'm in Calgary covering a protest, and I've got people coming up to me, showing me tickets they got on their way to the protest. I get home, I upload all the footage. And as I'm going to the protest, I've covered 2 Fight the Fines cases on the way across Alberta. I stopped at Red Deer, covered 2. I get to Calgary. People are running up to me with their tickets that they got either at the protest or getting off the C train to go to the protest. And then I get home, I'm uploading my footage, I'm packaging up the video for everybody the next day. And then we find out that Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi's chief of staff also went to Hawaii for vacation, while the people who are protesting directly outside of City Hall are getting tickets every single week.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Viking Insane, again, $5. How is the USA addressing the election dispute? They aren't. They ignored it. You expect tyrants to hand over power to the people peacefully. No, I don't. I'm saying that whatever happened yesterday doesn't fix any problems. It opens up a whole bunch of new ones. Viking Insane, $5. I missed the part where our vets, who we worship, defeated the Axis powers with kindness. Conservative in the West are cowards. Okay.
I'm not sure I understand that either. I mean, that was a declaration of war, and the Allied powers responded. I mean, it wasn't some militia unit going off half-cocked to Europe. So again, I'm not clear about that. In terms of the United States, they were isolationists until December 7th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese. That's an act of war, and they went to war. So I can't connect those dots, Viking. I'm not sure the point you're trying to make.
Canadian Girl, $2. I still have hope for the USA. I do too. They're the shining city on the hill. Yep. They are the beacon of freedom and hope and democracy in the entire world. The protectors of the world's human rights. Think about how many Americans have died in defense of human rights around the world. Yeah. Just think about that. I have unending hope for them. And I know that Americans are protected by the second greatest document ever written outside of the Bible. And that's their Constitution. It limits government. It's almost a perfect document when it protects and enshrines human dignity and bequeaths only unto government that which government should do.
Well,
because of that, I do believe that America will come back from whatever darkness they're experiencing right now.
Well, a couple of things, Sheila. First of all, I agree with you. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, they are the most beautiful documents ever written politically, as far as I'm concerned. My fear is that you have a wing of the Democrat Party that wants to trash the Constitution, basically. Yep. They're not pro-constitutional politicians by any regard. And in terms of America being this shining light, it's always so funny, even in those countries, Sheila, where you will see mobs of people in the town square chanting "Death to America" and burning the stars and stripes. You go to the consulate or the embassy in those very same countries, and you see a lineup around the building of people trying to get a visa or a green card to come to the United States of America. Gee, I wonder why that is, if it's such a vile, horrible country, eh, Sheila?
Yeah, it's so terrible that people are streaming across the border illegally to get into it. And crazy, $5. I agree, David. Trump is good for the U.S. and by extension, Canada. I remain optimistic that something else is coming to turn this around. I think Trump was incredible for the United States. I think he was great for Canada too, especially out here in Alberta for the oil patch. I'm very pessimistic on Joe Biden, his very radical vice presidential pick, Kamala Harris. She's a Green New Dealer. Biden said he's going to cancel Keystone XL. Don't get me wrong. I'm pro-Trump, anti-Biden as they come. But if you're pro-Trump, what you saw yesterday should bother you greatly, because the only person it really hurts, besides yourself and the conservative movement, is President Trump. It ends his legacy on a very dark note.
Oh, and by the way, Sean, I'm so glad you brought up the Green New Deal. I think the last estimate I saw for that was 98 trillion with a T US dollars. And one of the accomplishments of Donald Trump that I forgot to mention was U.S. energy independence for the first time in half a century. Yep. And we know that these Democrats, they ain't buying into the fracking miracle that's resulted partly for this energy independence. So, yeah, I guess if you want to be dependent on OPEC nation oil again and higher prices at the pump, well, Biden and Harris, they're your guys.
Yep. David Anderson gives us $10. What should patriots do when an election is stolen by criminals in office who will solidify their power, silence their opposition, and prevent fair elections forever? Serious question. Well, what happened yesterday will give the tyrants an excuse to continue to consolidate their power. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. And if you go back, I don't know, David, when you started tuning in, but that Daily Caller, our op-ed, gave some great advice about what normal people should be doing right now. Organizing, we're conservatives. We work hard. We accept when we lose, and we work hard to win. We are introspective. That's what gave us, by the way, President Trump.
Yep.
Conservatives got sick and tired of losing and said, let's do something different. They worked hard. They got Trump nominated, and you had 4 years of prosperity. You need to change something and quit doing more of the same. That's what conservatives do when we lose.
And I would like to say, Sheila, to David, that I understand the frustration.
Sure.
For 4 years, especially with the mainstream media in the U.S., they have been pointing fingers with anyone wearing a red ball cap, saying basically, you're trash. They keep putting people down, and people don't like to be dehumanized like that. And that's what the media did to them. What we saw in this election, and I'm not going to go into details because of those new YouTube censorship laws that kicked in today, so I can't. I don't want to strike against our company. It was atrocious. The thing is, and I think Sheila, basically said it herself, in terms of unraveling, in terms of challenging this grotesque injustice of what happened in November, it's not by what happened yesterday, storming the Capitol building.
Matthew W. gives us $5. What is acceptable? Is it acceptable that they have placed us under a false pandemic, killing middle class, no support to violence, but where's the line? We're fighting that every single day. Yep. My full-time job these days at the company, besides being a journalist and being the chief reporter, is being a legal secretary in Canada's largest civil liberties law firm. We've got hundreds of fight the fines cases that I'm working on. 100 I will open cases, mask fines. That's what we're doing. We're fighting every single one that we can, that comes to us, that we can start working on. We're doing that. We're doing our best to put these things before a real judge and have the government answer for these encroachments on our civil liberties. That's what we're doing. So, while some people are there's a difference between civil disobedience in, these I will open businesses who are doing an act of civil disobedience to protest a bad law, and lawlessness, which is what we saw yesterday.
You just had to throw in that new title, Chief Reporter, didn't you, Sheila? Yeah, folks, Sheila is the Chief Reporter.
I don't even know what it does.
I'm just a lowly reporter. I've got no chief or anything like that in front of my title, so hail to the chief.
Excuse me, you're a mission specialist, I believe. That's what your lower third says sometimes. Which is, I've never got a fancy like mission specialist or rebel commander. I never got one of those. I got chief reporter, which sounds important but means a lot of work. Okay, we got to catch up on these super chats. Justin's
Gotcha.
like Sheila. MEC $5. Police let them in. Film footage shows. Retwitter. Photos show several from Antifa and BLM too. Mike Pence is not trustworthy. A setup, a coup. And crazy $2. I love who you are. Don't apologize. Thank you so much. Viking Insane. George Washington was breaking the rules when American Revolution began. I guess they should have held themselves to a higher standard and bend the knee.
No, but my point, Viking Insane, is that George Washington had a plan. And it wasn't, let's break into a building, sit down in Nancy Pelosi's chair and take a selfie, and then what? Is the Coke machine working? I mean, this is what I'm getting at. That was mindless what happened yesterday.
Yeah, they just did it because they could. A Freedom for All, $5. How do you know was Trump supporters? The left has won because you are taking the blame. There are Trump supporters in that crowd. Let's just face the facts. Some of them, most of them, were Trump supporters. Even if there were Antifa interlopers inciting the mob allowed themselves to be incited.
Yep.
Let's be honest. Randy Smith, $5. Rebel rocks. What's the matter with you so-called rebels? I think people want more snowflakes. Flying guitar for real rebels. Justin? There we go. Footloose, the three-legged cat, $20. Rebel News, please do some more research. I stayed up most of the night to research what happened yesterday in the U.S. What happened yesterday was not conservatives, it was Antifa. I wish I could share my screenshots here. We have a reporter on the ground there. Yeah. We have a reporter on the ground there. I know that you really don't want to believe that conservatives could have participated in this, but some did, and we have to face those facts.
And Sheila, on the other hand, I just want to say this. When we find out the identity of these people, nothing would thrill me more, nothing would get my heart a-fluttering more if we found out that these are all Antifa types with records and they're not MAGA people, they're not Trump people, they're not Republicans. Believe me, but we have to, as Clara Peller of Wendy's used to say, where's the beef? We have to find those details before we present them as facts. Otherwise, we're just spinning conspiracy theories.
Right. Trinoculus P, $5. It's fine to be angry. If you are so out of control to exact revenge on property and people, the easiest people to manipulate are angry or scared. Exactly. Viking Insane gives us $5. Those small businesses should, quote, hold themselves to a higher standard and respect law and order, right? In your words. I just explained there's a difference between civil disobedience and lawlessness. Tracy reopening her hair salon is much different than storming the Capitol. Tracy was able to open her business and function lawfully 3 weeks ago. That's the difference. Some bizarre act of a health bureaucrat made what she does for a living completely illegal. And she's protesting a bad law on her own in her own home. She's not storming the Capitol building.
And here's the other difference with Tracy or Adam Skelly with Adamson Barbecue or Barbara and Karthik at the Point of Light in Newmarket. They open up. If you don't like that, you don't have to shop there. You don't have to eat there. You just do your own thing. No one gets hurt.
Next one. Lewis Talbot, 10 pounds. People are turning on Rebel News in the comments. That's okay. This is wrong. Denouncing political violence is the right thing to do. Let's wait for evidence before claiming it's Antifa. You're both right. We don't know. Thank you. Exactly. And again, David and I have been on the receiving end of political violence. Yeah. I've been punched in the back, had my camera punched in my face. David's been chewed like a rag doll by a dog. there's no justification for solving your political disagreements with violence and lawlessness. If it's wrong for that to happen to David and I, then it's wrong for our side to start throwing the first punches.
I still have those scars, by the way, of those dog bites, but because of the area they're in, you're going to have to take my word for it, folks.
Uba Thorker gives us $10. How should the people believe in the mechanisms of media and demonstrate rights and freedoms when changes are swept under the rug and demonstrators will be punished for enacting their civil liberties? Well, you better believe they're going to be punished now. Yeah. That's for sure. You better believe that there are going to be restrictions on peaceful protests now, especially in and around the Capitol. That's going to happen. Dave Subrani, $6.99. Governments are terrorist government in Latin mean to control the mind. John Purr gives us 5,000. Oh boy, I don't know what that currency is, but he asked, do you think the military is on Trump's side? I think the military is on America's side. Ed Mondoto gives us $5. Is there ever going to be a point where revolt is okay, or do we just wait until the left completes their plan of putting us all in chains and ball gags? A Canadian Girl, $20. Regarding Tracy's place, the bylaw officer called while I was there getting my hair done. He was on the speakerphone, heard that he read comments on Rebel News. They're following Rebel News. No rats allowed in Alberta.
Oh,
well, then
God.
that bylaw officer knows then that he better not find Tracy, because we're going to fight it. Don't even waste your time, bylaw officer. If you're watching right now, go do something else. Go find some dogs not with licenses or whatever you do. Go write some parking tickets. Leave Tracy alone, because we're going to fight it. So just don't waste your time.
Yep, 2 words, Walter Matheson. Google that case, because the poor RCMP constable that went after that senior eating a muffin and drinking a coffee in a car by himself in New Brunswick, he regrets that encounter more than probably anything in his life, given the embarrassment he endured.
I pity the bylaw officer that goes after Tracy. A Viking Insane. I'm blown away that you are most upset by a stupid stage protest in a stolen presidential election. I guess they could just get away with it. Viking Insane, you're not watching then. You're not watching. You just haven't been watching. We've been highly critical of the unusual things that happened in the election. I'm probably going to get us banned from YouTube for even saying that. But we've been highly critical. Yeah. We streamed for hours on election night. We talked about it for weeks after. Of course we are. But the one does not resolve the other. It just doesn't. Let's keep going. Benjamin Van Drunen, $20. If the lockdowners can rely on snitch lines to turn in their neighbors, can we use a reward system for information leading to the exposure and resignation of lockdown imposers for a breach of their own rules? There was a time that Ezra had a bounty out for John Tory, for Brian Pallister. I think that remains. I mean, I want to know if these people are breaking their rules. And they're so stupid to think that people like them enough not to turn them in. I mean, really.
Oh, boy.
You're politicians. You're the least liked people out there. Derek G, $5. I don't believe freedom-loving, right-leaning people can share countries with leftist, government-loving folks anymore. You know, I hear a lot of prominent conservatives from the United States talking about secession and states' rights right now. Steam Engines O'Toole, $2. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, am I right? Billy McDonald, $10. My super chat for using a term that refers to Germany in World War II was given a message error. Not okay, Google. Well, see, there's the censorship coming. Uba Thorker, $5. What is Rebel News' opinion on Lynn Wood? I think Lynn Wood is a little bit too much QAnon. And if I were more conspiracy minded, and I try not to be as conspiracy minded as I'm inclined to be, I would say that Lynn Wood was a plant by the left for just the things that Lynn Wood did to sort of discredit real things that could have been used to further the president's position. I don't know. I wish Lynn Wood would just go away. Billy McDonald, $10. I'm getting tired of people I know trying to justify that the police pulling a family out of their home has been okay. Germany is coming to Canada.
By the way, how many people are justifying that? Because when I look at the comments, when we run these kind of stories, Sheila, I'm talking 99% are saying this is atrocious, this is an overreach. So who are these people that, I guess the political elite that are, sicking the police on families? Because that's not the vibe I get, Sheila. How about yourself?
I have seen almost nobody defending that at all, which brings me great hope, that when people are exposed to the images of what these lockdown restrictions really mean, they don't like it. So that makes me sort of glad. Nathan, $2. What did Sufi say when you confronted him, David?
Sufi, I think I didn't realize it was Sufi. Is this, are we going back to the restaurant on Queen Street story? So that was my bad because the photos I had were him in a disguise. So but it just proves if that indeed was Sufi confronting me, he's also a liar to add to all of his other criminal charges. So there you go.
Okay. Alberta and Sask gives us $6.99. Patriots, Canadian or U.S., never gave the government lawlessness paid crisis actors did. Again, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
And that'll all come out in the wash when people are charged. And it sounds like over 50 of them were yesterday. At least that's what the latest number I saw on the Daily Caller said. Ant Crazy, $2. I agree, Sheila, you're voicing my thoughts. Charlie CCC, you slandered Ashley Bobbitt. She was a martyr killed by cops. That was the lady shot through the neck, unarmed lady shot through the neck by cops. I didn't say anything about her.
Yeah,
I didn't say anything about her. I do think people should not have been inside the walls of the Capitol building. That's for sure. But I didn't say anything about her. And from what I understand, she served 4 tours of duty, and was someone who made sacrifices to serve her country. Yeah. And I have not said a word about her. And I think there were actually 3 other people killed yesterday in protests across the country. I saw 4 deaths related to protests yesterday, and over 50 people charged. So,
and Sheila, I'll just add that if you are a true patriot, then don't, contribute to an illegal act that compels law enforcement to draw their weapons, which is what was happening yesterday. This is another reason this was just a complete fail.
Viking Insane, $5. I don't want to get angry, but conservatives are establishment shills here and USA. There is no greater threat to democracy than a stolen election. I don't disagree with you that, that democracy must be protected. But they're going to put the screws on the mechanisms of democracy right now because of what happened yesterday. How can you have democracy without the free and liberal exchange of ideas in the public square, that free speech? We're going to have free speech crackdown because of what happened yesterday. We're going to have internet censorship. It's already starting because of what happened yesterday. They're going to put the screws to us. It's already starting. Yeah. It's already starting. So how do you even get to the point where you can have a free election if you can't even debate the ideas that the election is about? How do we get there? Nathan, does your security also protect your headquarters? You'll never find our headquarters. Annalisa S, $6.99. You don't need to justify your opinions. When you're wrong, it's wrong. It must be called out. Totally agree. Thank you. MEC, $5. Yesterday looks like a Saul Alinsky instruction destruction book. Love Rebel. Thank you very much. Thanks. JK, $2. Was the election stolen? 91.8 elk. There's no law or order in a stolen election. They got away with it, and they'll never allow a free election. Fighting back is restoring law and order. I guess we'll see. Billy McDonald, $10. You advise for conservative Canadians who are also told their opinions are wrong, even though it's backed with research and facts. We believe in free speech.
Yeah.
That's why we don't censor our comments. That's why we leave our comment section open. We believe in free speech, and we fight the free speech battles every single day.
And when we do our stories, Sheila, our prime directive is to make sure that they are factually bulletproof.
Yeah. And we lawyer certain things
Yep.
to make sure that we're getting everything right. When we're talking about somebody from the other side, we do our best to reach out to the other side. If we're talking about something that needs, input from the police, if we're talking about somebody's charges, we always reach out to the other side. You'll see in Tamara's videos, she calls the health unit all the time for clarity. She talks to the cops because she wants to get their side of the story on the record too, because that's important, because that's what being fair is. Now, you can come to your own opinions, but you have to make sure that all the facts are on the table before you form those opinions. Catherine Charbonneau gives us €5. I don't see a super chat. Tyler Worms gives us $6.99. I don't see a super chat either. Viking Insane, $2. U.S. Constitution is toilet paper if it's not enforced. Billy McDonald, $5. Meant always, not also. Gotcha. Kevin Tennant, sneaky way to scare people more about COVID. ICU numbers on alberta.ca are a sublet of hospital numbers, not in addition. Yeah, it's funny how they tinker with those things. And they never tell you what exactly constitutes an ICU bed, right? Like they have 650 ventilators sitting in storage right now. Those are, I think, Jason Kenney's numbers that are not being used. And you roll one of those out and you've just created another ICU bed.
But, Sheila, as I said on Tuesday, I think the best news of the holiday season was all these Alberta MLAs and Ontario MPPs buggering off to Caribbean destinations in Hawaii, because they have access to these numbers. They know how deadly this pandemic is. And obviously they've come to the conclusion that it's completely okay to travel to foreign destinations, even though they're preaching to us not to do so, because they wouldn't put their families in danger, would they? So I think this is just a glorious, optimistic news that they would choose to travel, because obviously this Wuhan virus, it isn't the second coming of Ebola. And hey, hallelujah.
Yeah. I guess restaurants are safe, because you're not buying groceries and cooking for yourself when you're on vacation. Right. Lewis Talbot gives us £10. People making parallels with 1776. This is a grotesque comparison. I'm sorry to say this, but some people are displaying a religious devotion to Trump and attacking Rebel for denouncing violence. Thanks for that. Viking Insane, $5. Nothing is coming to save us. Read Thomas Sowell. His insight goes way deeper than economics. Modern citizens aren't willing to pay freedom's price. Jad gives us $4.99. Antifa was there instigating. Video evidence. Unfortunately, people took the bait. Instead of citizen arresting them, I wouldn't advise that either, though. I wouldn't advise citizen arresting Antifa. Pompeo Gabbard 2024. God bless. Viking Insane, $2. Show me a politician and I will show you a Quisling. Matt Watkinson gives us $6.99. How can I get involved with independent Canadian journalism? Do you have a cell phone? Because if you have a cell phone with a camera, then you are a citizen journalist. Congratulations. Benjamin Van Drunen, $5. Real judge. A lot of judges who will see these provincial offense cases will be JPs, and they will seem to lap up whatever the Crown says. We'll see about that. We'll see.
I disagree with that, Sheila. I truly believe, based on discussions we've had with our lawyers, that the vast majority of these are going to be thrown out. If not all of them. I really think so. And time will tell once the backlog at the courts gets cleared up and some of these start to get heard. And I can't wait.
You know what? I can't wait for a Crown prosecutor who has been dealing with the backlog because of the pandemic with a rapist file on his desk. And the clock's ticking on the rapist to get to trial. And the clock is ticking on guy walking to a protest to get to trial. And the Crown, with their limited resources and court space, will have to make a choice. Yeah. Do I move forward with the rapist, or do I move forward with the protester? And they're going to hopefully take the real crime, and if they do, God help them.
And I guess the silver lining for the rapist is, if he's indeed convicted, he'll be first in line to get a vaccine, right?
Yeah, that's We didn't even get to talk about that because we're 20 minutes over, and I'm still not through the super chats. But the federal inmates are getting their vaccines prioritized ahead of the COs and COP, if you can believe that. But that program starts tomorrow. So the grandma killers, the actual grandma killers, not just people who want to go out about their daily life and buy groceries without a piece of cloth over their face.
Yeah.
The actual people who may have murdered people, they're going to get the vaccine before the COs are.
Way to go, Bill Blair, because we can't be judgmental of people, as Bill would say, even though Billy represents the riding of Scarborough, where there's some bad crime issues, yet he lives in the upper class Forest Hill district of Toronto. So, yeah. Way to go, Bill Blair.
Yeah, he said he has an obligation to keep the people behind bars safe. They're behind bars. That's good enough. Doug Abbey gives us $10 per character, jumping up and down, saying number one fan. Thank you. Andrew says, our colleague Andrew says, giving us $2 just to talk to us, says, love you, Sheila. Oh, thanks. P.S. Justin's new name is Boston. Okay, Boston.
Boston brand?
Oh, Justin, it's not. Just keep going. Okay, Mitch Ebo gives us $20 per character, dancing under a rain of confetti and taking his hat off to say you are amazing. Thank you very much. Junior Bleary, $1.99. No super chat. Derek G. It feels like Trump was individual liberty's last stand against the planned oligarchical collectivism the financial elite has been planning for years. You're probably right. Kane Enmark, $2. I love my David and Sheila. Shout out to Justin. We're going to get a guitar? There it is. DD Raptor, $7. Heard rumor of Tucker and Ted Cruz running for 2024, but first they need to come to Canada and see how to have a paper ballot election. Derek G, $5. These alt-right groypers and Q people who stormed the Capitol did the right a great disservice. Let's hope for them they won't receive the death penalty. I don't think they will. I think most of them are going to get away with it. Laura Lee Bennett gives us $5. No super chat. Anna Jen, $5. I'm fairly sure storming the building was a setup by Democrats because since 9/11, security would have never let anyone in. I don't think Capitol Hill security were all that prepared for our side, like Trump supporters breaching the fences. I don't think that they thought that was a possibility. Yamin, your mom? I am in your mom. Okay, I get it. $5. If you make peaceful change impossible, you make violence inevitable. Eric H. Woman boomed by cop inside White House. Full uncensored video at band.video. Viking Insane, $5. Never said breaking into Capitol was a good thing, but you have both failed to explain which alternative recourse exists when election courts fail. Decipher, $5. Eric H, $2. Had to say boomed because otherwise his chat wouldn't send. Eric H, $2. Ordered a mask exempt button December. How long to ship? Eric, can you send me an email at sheila@rebelnews.com and I will look into that for you. If you're in Calgary or the Alberta area, maybe I can just toss one in the mail for you.
Yeah, and if you're in the GTA, I'll drop one off personally. How do you like that for curb service?
Yes. Theo Local Loner gives us $5. What if Rebel Media is removed from YouTube? We have plans. Don't worry. Theo Local Loner. Yeah, we do.
That's why she's the chief reporter, folks.
See? That's why. Theo Local Loner, £5. I hope David doesn't get assaulted this year. It's upsetting to see him being assaulted by thugs like it's perfectly acceptable. Yeah. Or chewed like an old shoe. Angela Best gives us $5. Participation ads on TV ads on TV telling us to work out, get out, and get exercise. But if we do, we can get charged and fined for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So much for all you 30-year-old Canadians that want to achieve the fitness level of 60-year-old Swedes. If you dare to try that in 2021, you're going directly to jail.
Straight to jail. This is the year that fun died. I am in your mom gives us $2. You didn't read my super chat. Why not? I didn't read it because I hadn't gotten to it yet, but I read it now. Both of them. Martin Sable, $10. Facebook deleting Trump. Hopefully all tens of millions cancel their account. Love how Facebook banning police hiring ads, but Mark be first to call if police broke into his house. Mark Zuckerberg, yeah.
I didn't know that. Is that true? They banned police hiring ads?
I think so. Yesterday, I was this close from deleting my Twitter account, and I'm good at Twitter. I like the fast pace of Twitter, but I hate everything else about it. Yeah. And I was this close to just saying, you know what, enough. You know what, like when they deleted Trump's video calling for peace, I thought, is like, this is the day. This is the day where I have to say no more. And I'm still seriously considering it. I might just let my Twitter account rest as a documentation to everything that I've said and done over the last, I don't know, since 2012, and just move on to Parler. I don't want to participate in that hellhole anymore.
So you missed it by that much, Chief. Do you see what they did there?
I did. Ammo CM9 or C9M, $5. Shame on the rebel. That girl died for freedom and those cops were protecting criminals. Okay. Barbara Baxter, $100. Barbara, I'm so sorry that I was so slow to getting to your super chat. I hope you're still watching. Thank you so much for your generosity. And you didn't even leave us a message or anything, but I think $100 sends quite the message. So we appreciate that. And we promise we'll put it to good use. Matt B, $305. Why is everyone so damn hostile towards you guys today? I love you guys. Keep up the excellent work. Howdy, Justin. Go, Justin. There you go. $5. I don't see who it's from, Justin, but the left mob doesn't have to break into the Capitol. They're elected to Congress. Very good. Exactly. Mark Elliott, $5. For 2 months, people have seen the evidence pile up and waited for justice that never came. The corrupt are immune to justice. I think that is why yesterday was a powder keg. And a lot of people just needed something to push them in that direction. And, you know, we've seen the media and the left normalize political violence over the last 4 years, but in particular this year. So, you know, I see why it happened. I don't have to like it, though.
Yeah, again, with the left, as long as the right people are doing the political violence, then it's okay. And it's mostly a peaceful protest.
Martin Sable, $5. Be nice if Russian hacker exposed JT offshore accounts he claims he does not have. We all know he's got a big fat trust account. Benjamin Van Drunen, $10. I hope you're right about Fight the Fines and the judges. You are hiring lawyers. My experience with provincial offenses has been when I was self-representing. Usually as soon as you get a lawyer involved and start, you know, wanting disclosure and court dates and all the things that lawyers ask for, that's when the Crown's like, hey, no thanks, we're not going to proceed. We don't want to. So hopefully that continues to be the theme of Fight the Fines. Angela Best gives us $10. I am immune compromised with monthly treatments. My specialist has told me not to take the vaccine. Not enough testing, not enough groups tested on, and he is facing backlash for it. Don't worry, you'll never get a vaccine because it's all going to the criminals first. Decipher gives us $5. No super chat. Viking Insane, $5. This isn't personal and I don't condone violence. That said, the damage globalists have done far outstrips what happened last night. Time to give up. And Jan gives us $5. David, my hubby laughed till he cried after hearing your description of this Chinese stewardesses in diapers. Oh my God, you rock.
Yeah. And that you know, Sheila, by the way, thank you for that kind compliment. And again, this is a story, folks, about, I did a monologue on it, the Chinese Aviation Authority recommending that stewardesses, flight attendants, wear diapers so they don't have to use the washroom because they think maybe, perhaps, you could get the Wuhan virus there. So, yeah, nothing like a 15-hour transcontinental flight with a little surprise package in your Depends in terms of hygiene. And again, Sheila, goes to what I said, going back to 2019 when Mad Magazine went out of business. how can you possibly parody the real world of 2020 and 2021? It's impossible, folks.
Let's keep going because I think you have actual work to do outside of like this. William Byrne gives us $5. Sheila, say to David, don't call me chief.
By the way, how much longer are the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, going to be able to keep that nickname, Sheila? Do we have an over/under year when they have to do a rebranding too?
One of my dearest friends in my entire life, his nickname is Chief. He's actually my daughter's godfather, and I don't think he's ever going to change that. I don't think he's not one of those people that will bow to political correctness. Martin Sable says he'll send David an email with Facebook banning the police ad. Gregory Lundquist gives us $5. Did the Capitol reassemble in the same chamber after the raid? If so, what COVID sanitation measures were taken? None.
That's the big story.
Wenderella, 59, $10. I don't see a super chat. Lynn, $5. I'd like to cancel my subscription to 2021. I've experienced my 7-day free trial and I'm not interested. Yeah.
Great line.
Yep. Oh, my phone's talking to me for some reason. Let's keep going. Nathan, $2. Any security you guys exposed work for Onyx Guard? I don't know what you're trying to tell me there. Any security you guys exposed work for Onyx Guard? Nathan, I don't know what you're trying to tell me there, but if there's something else that you'd like us to know, please reach back out to us. And we're finally all cut up. We're a half an hour over, and we talked about one thing.
But it was important, Sheila. You know,
it's
so far the most important story of 2021, and there'll be others, I'm sure. Folks, Thank you so much for your generosity. You were so kind, and I know these are really trying times, so thank you for tuning in, and a special thank you to the Super Chatters, of which there is one more to read.
I think there's actually two. Observer Dude gives us £5. Is there a possibility that the U.S. election wasn't rigged? I'm not sure. Jeffrey Cap, $2. Sorry about that, Chief, is a Get Smart reference. Yes, I do know that. And we're all caught up. And I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. And I welcome all the criticism. I want to hear people's opinions of what I have to say. I'm paid to give my opinion. And I think the boss trusts David and I enough to give our opinions for at least an hour, 2 times a week. And sometimes you might hear things from us that you disagree with, but that's fine because this is a free speech zone.
It sure is, as long as we can maintain it, right, Sheila? Because we know they're coming for us too.
Exactly.
Well, folks, on the behalf of Chief Reporter Sheila the She-Devil Gunn Reid and myself, David Menzies, one more super chat?
No, I said just don't call me Chief.
Okay. Don't call me Chief. Thank you so much for your generosity. And Sheila and I will see you next week, next Tuesday. The big boss man, Ezra Levant, will be here in this seat at 12 Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, I see Justin doing this, which just distracts me and makes me drag it on longer. In the meantime, stay sane.